just a few, actually expanded to movements organized by and for adolescent girls. So today, the movement is stopping child marriages, promoting girls' education, and much more for the girl child. Hello and welcome to this morning's edition of The Grill. Classic 263, in partnership with Plan International, is focusing on the International Day of the Girl Child. My name is Chanda, alongside the good guy.
My name is Valentine, Mabhugu. Welcome to The Grill this morning, right here on the Breakfast Drive. And today we host the country director for Plan International, that is Ms. Angela Muriti. Good day and welcome to The Grill this morning.
Thank you very much.
Well, let's get into the International Day of the Girl Child. What exactly is this International Day of the Girl Child?
So the International Day of the Girl Child is a day that is celebrated every year on the 11th of October. And I think you've already given us quite some good background. It really stems from that meeting that was held 25 years ago in Beijing, which was a platform where women came together to really talk about their issues and their challenges and to come up with solutions. And as a result, there was the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, which spawned all these movements, all these programs, all these things that were designed to enhance women's rights. So the International Day of the Girl was a product of that, and it's celebrated every year, as we said, on the 11th of October, and it's there to raise awareness of the challenges that girls face and the need for empowerment and fulfillment of their human rights. One thing we often fail to realize is that adolescents are a unique cadre of rights holders. We don't often see them as people who have rights, who have a voice. They're still seen very much as children who have no voice and nothing to offer. So the International Day of the Girl is really meant to remind us that adolescent girls have a voice, they have a say, and they should be at decision-making tables being given a chance to craft their own lives.
Well, with that, a bit of background as well. Let's talk about why this International Day of the Girl Child is important to Plan International, and what exactly are you doing to commemorate it? I know we have so many other issues that we will be discussing as we progress in the program.
So it is very important to Plan International. Plan International is an international development organization that focuses on children and girls' rights, and particularly girls' rights. And we exist to enhance and to empower girls in Zimbabwe, but not only in Zimbabwe, but globally. And our aim is to allow girls to lead, to learn, to lead, to decide, and to thrive. And here in Zimbabwe, we work in the areas of education, sexual and reproductive rights, health and rights. We work in child protection and youth economic empowerment. And we do all these things in order to enable to do those things that I've mentioned, which is to learn, to lead, to decide, and to thrive, to allow girls to have fulfilled lives. So it's very important to Plan International this day. We are commemorating it all over the country in our various program areas. Here in Harare in particular, this is one of the ways that we're doing it, being here on this show, which is excellent, and thank you very much for the opportunity. We have something called the Girls Takeover. So we have girls who we have been working with in our programs who are taking over some very senior positions in embassies in Harare, which is brilliant. So we have girls taking over ambassadorial roles in the embassy of Sweden, the United Kingdom, US, Canada, Australia, the EU, Japan, Portugal. We will also have girls taking over the media as well, which is amazing. We will have a young lady who's going to co-host the reading of the news. So, and the idea is to allow these girls an opportunity to experience what it is to lead, to be in positions of power, to be able to make decisions, and also to to help them to gain confidence, because one of the areas where our girls are really face a lot of challenge is in their sense of confidence, their agency. They don't believe in themselves. They don't think that they could do it. So when we allow them these opportunities to go and take over these roles, to meet people in high positions, women in high positions, ambassadors and very senior leaders, we are hoping that they will come away really inspired and thinking, you know what, if they can do it, I can do it, and I'm not going to allow anything to get in my way. So the takeover is one of the ways that we are commemorating this day. Last year we took over Parliament, which was amazing. Today we are taking over all these embassies.
Quite interesting that you bring these aspects in terms of empowering the girl child. But we cannot talk of empowering the girl child without looking at issues of patriarchy and issues of masculinity. That is something that is within our midst. How are you as Plan International making sure that as we raise the girls, this awareness on issues to do with patriarchy as well as masculinity are dealt with and they are made conscious of, so that the girl knows the power and she possesses and the equality that she can gain in society? Yeah,
you're absolutely right. Patriarchy has a big role to play in where girls and women are positioned in our society, and it is driven by several things. Most importantly, our social norms in our societies, in our communities. We're all born and raised to be part of families, to be part of communities, and as we are being raised, we are also socialized in the way that the family and the community is supposed to work. And a lot of the messages that girls get as they're growing up is that they are lesser to men and boys, and that becomes entrenched in families and communities, and girls grow up thinking, well, you know, I have to know my place. This is my place. I can never be like a man or a boy. So Plan International does a lot of work actually around addressing negative social norms and negative gender stereotypes that reduce the agency of girls. We work directly with communities using various methodologies, bringing boys and girls and men and women together. We strongly believe that men and boys have to be our allies actually in this fight for girls and women equality. We cannot leave them behind. In fact, all of our programs must involve men and boys in order to help them to really understand why it is important that girls go to school, that girls have access to sexual health and reproductive information and services, that girls have access to economic opportunities. And to be honest, it makes economic sense. Even for countries to develop, you must involve, you cannot leave out half the population who have the potential to be productive and to contribute to their society. So Plan International does a lot of work around social norms and trying to increase people's knowledge and change their attitudes, shift their social norms and even their behavior, so that we're getting more girls to have the same opportunities as the boys in our communities.
You also spoke about that socialization, given from what Valentine brought up, the issue of patriarchy, and which brings to the issue of you're running with the Rewrite Her Story campaign, and you say you are involving men and boys. It's more like complementing the efforts of promoting the girl child. What's this campaign all about?
So the Rewrite Her Story is a piece of research. It's a piece of research that was done by Plan International together with the Gina Davis Institute in the US. So if you know, I don't know if you know Gina Davis, she's a very famous movie actor. Yes. And she became very concerned that actually there are not enough women in the media, and whatever images that are there in the media tend to be very negative or gender stereotyped. We all know the statistics around women's pay in all sectors of the economy, including in the media and in the entertainment industry. So she became very concerned about that, and she formed the Gina Davis Institute on Gender and Media, and Plan International have worked together with them to to do a piece of research across several countries around the world to try and understand this issue from the girl's perspective. What role does the media play in shaping their own ideas, their confidence, their perceptions around themselves? And what should the media be doing to enhance their confidence, increase their agency, and give them a sense of empowerment, the idea that they can also do it. So this Rewrite Her Story is a piece of research that was launched actually in June during the Big Women Deliver conference in Canada, and it really is a very powerful piece of research because it shows, it brings forth the voices of young women from across the world. Some of the really interesting research findings that came from that piece of work were that female leaders are 4 times more likely than male leaders to be shown wearing revealing clothing. So that's 30% compared to 7%. So women in the media are often underdressed, sexualized, exactly. Female leaders are nearly twice as likely to be shown as partially nude than the male leads in the media. Characters who are female leaders are 4 times more likely to be shown completely naked at some point in the film. They're more likely to be objectified and sexually harassed in the films. This is just some of the research that has come out of the Rewrite Her Story. Of course, we know also that in a lot of the films, in a lot of the programs, you often have male leads. The leads are often male. The females, the women are often sidekicks. They have to be rescued. If they're not being rescued, they're sexual objects. So this is what the research is showing. It also presents a series of recommendations for us all in terms of the media sector. They advocate very strongly for more women in the media, not only in front of the camera but behind the camera, and they advocate very strongly for more funding for female filmmakers as well, because women in the media sector tend to be quite underfunded. They advocate for the stopping of the sexualization and objectification of women and the gender stereotypes that are propagated in films, and they also ask that we make stories about female leadership visible and normal. Girls want to see themselves on the screen. They want to say, that lady, I want to be like her, and there's not enough of that in the media.
Still on the media, still on the objectifying of women in these spaces. I'll turn your attention to especially print media, where we often read a lot of women's stories, a lot of girls' stories, and there seems to be that objectification of women, where when they are in these generational relationships, or when there is a sexual violence involved, it's normally pinned on the girl rather than on the male counterparts. Now, even as Plan International, and when you're looking at the focus of rewriting that narrative, are you facing any challenge? Are you being promoted through different spaces, whether through government institutions, different conventions that are proffered and which many African countries are signatory to?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Again, normally when there is gender-based violence or sexual assault or sexual harassment, the blame is almost always placed on the girl or the woman. And that just goes to show how deeply entrenched our negative social norms and stereotypes about women, and the idea that women are kind of loose and they can't control themselves sexually. It must be them, or maybe it's about the way they were dressed, and the blame is always landing squarely on the girl. You're absolutely right. Of course, this is something Plan is working very hard to change. This is in the work that we do around sexual health and reproductive rights, this is a strong focus area, and we use whatever platforms we can to advocate for changes within our communities and our societies, whether it is face-to-face interaction with families, with communities, whether it's coming on programs like this and talking about it. We also spend a lot of time talking to donors, to the government. We do a lot of work with the government. The government is quite a strong partner of ours, actually, in the empowerment of girls, especially in this area. We can't do what we do without them, to be honest. So we use whatever platform we can to advocate for girls and the girls' empowerment, and to educate the communities, because information is power, and once people come slowly to realize some of these challenges that the girls are facing, and once we are able to motivate communities to make changes, to do something on an individual level, actually, then we will start to see the societies and communities changing a lot faster. So yes, plan uses whatever platforms we can. We are engaged with all sorts of different stakeholders to tackle this problem.
The program is The Grill, and it's gone 16 minutes to 8 o'clock, and today we are focusing on the International Day of the Girl Child. We do have in studio the Country Director for Plan International, Ms. Angela Moriti, and she is conversing with us on the International Day of the Girl Child. We want you to contribute, we want you to engage with us on this platform. The WhatsApp number is 0719498651. Alternatively, we do have two landlines, 0242498651, 0242498631. We do know that many parents out there have a girl child in their home. You're either a parent or a guardian to a girl, or you do work with girls in your community, or you have come across stories to do with the girl child. Mashonaland Central has been said to have the most number of girls, especially when it comes to child marriages. What are you as community leaders doing to ensure that you tackle these challenges? Our lines are open, 498-631, 498-651. Let's just turn to our WhatsApp platform and see what our listeners have to say this morning. This is The Grill, and as we just try and get some of those messages up and running, we'll just try and see if we can just get a caller online. 498-651. Good morning, you're live on The Grill. Okay, we just lost that one. It just flickered away. 498-651, 498-631. And before we pick up some of those, let's go into some of the challenges. This is probably the bone of contention when it comes to the challenges that are faced by the young girls and the young women today. Or let's just take that call. Morning, you're live on The Grill. Hello, good morning.
Hello, morning. That's 9280.
92.8. Please, it's Classic 263. Go ahead.
Yes, morning. My name is Sampaz. I'm calling from Haran. And I think I applaud all the efforts that various stakeholders actually know the work that is being done in order to promote the girl child and women. I think what should also be done now, what I'm observing is that while it's empowering the girl child, it seems for the male, it has actually made them more complacent, because now we have a very empowered female or girl or woman, but at the same time, the male is failing to adjust to the new status quo. So I don't know how that can be balanced out, because like if you look, for example, now we have so many female breadwinners, but at the same time, the male is not adjusting to the fact that things have changed. So the woman is still expected to be the traditional wife, and yet at the same time, they are coming in, they are empowered, they are helping the men with what society terms male duties. But it seems the male is not adjusting to that. I don't know if something can be done. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that contribution, which touches on a very pertinent issue that you can't leave the men out of the empowerment of the girl child, as it were. So what happens to the boy child? Hence the issue that I did ask earlier on about patriarchy, how organizations are trying to tackle and deal with that, as we look at some of the challenges that the girl child is faced with, looking at Zimbabwe in particular, Angela, because I want us to look at and bring the point of view closer to home, to say what are the basic challenges that the girl child is faced with within the Zimbabwe society, because those are some of the contributions that I see here about that are coming through from our listeners on our WhatsApp platform, who are saying, but what are the challenges that the girl child is faced with anyway?
Yeah. So thank you very much for that contribution. I didn't get the name of the caller. I think you're right. I think there is, I believe, some confusion, particularly in the urban setting, around, okay, you know, the women and girls are becoming more empowered. So what is the status? What is the role of the men and boys? So yes, I would agree with you to that extent. In the rural areas, that is not the case at all. I think girls still face many challenges, to be honest. Girls, for instance, in the area of education, at primary level, you do have parity. You'll have both boys and girls enrolling into school. But as they rise through the education system, you'll find that the parity, there is no more parity. When they're leave grade 7, going into Form 1, there's a big drop in the girls' enrollment. From A level up to university, there's another massive gap. So you find there girls are disadvantaged in terms of education, access to education. In terms of sexual reproductive health and rights, girls do not always have access to the information that they need to make decisions about their own bodies. Often they don't even know what's happening to their own bodies. They have to rely on all sorts of misinformation, some of which is coming from the media, social media. So girls again are disadvantaged in that way. We have very high teenage pregnancy rates in Zimbabwe, and early child marriages as well that are linked, because often when a girl falls pregnant, the solution is often that she gets married to whoever made her pregnant. I believe in Zimbabwe the statistics are about 1 in 3 girls getting married before they're 18 years old. So these are some of the big challenges that we are facing, the girls are facing in Zimbabwe. Even access to economic opportunities to make a livelihood for themselves are limited for girls. So they can't go to school, or rather they can go to school, but they face all sorts of challenges and often end up dropping out, which means it's very hard for them to find jobs or start businesses. So they are disadvantaged on the livelihoods element, which contributes to the vicious cycle of poverty. Poverty often means that girls then have to engage often in negative survival coping mechanisms. You know, some of them might go into prostitution or sex work. So the girls are still facing many challenges. Here in Zimbabwe, we have a lot of work to do around the economic empowerment of girls, around the sexual reproductive health rights, around access to quality education, around protection from all sorts of violence and harassment. There's still a lot of work to be done. But I think the caller raised an important point. We cannot go on this journey without including the men folk. The boys and men have to be our allies in this journey, because we are not living in separate societies. We live together and we build families together. So it's really about changing the norms within the society, particularly with our men folk, to help understand that girls and women have important contributions to make to their society.
And coupled with what you just raised, how crucial is that political participation of women in those spaces, given that you are raising the fact that they are immense challenges that the girl child is faced with. Obviously Zimbabwe has that quota, and they are trying to push for it beyond 2023. But is this even enough? And even when women enter the political space, are they pushing for women's rights?
Yeah.
Are they doing it right? Because it's one thing to be in that space and calling for women's rights, and yet it's not benefiting the very same person that you're calling for.
I think women's participation in the political space is extremely important. Women have to get a seat around the table. They have to be involved. Women and girls have to be involved in decisions that affect them and their lives, because they themselves understand the challenges that they are facing. So absolutely right. And frankly speaking, what we would like to see is 50-50 participation, not a quarter or a third as it is in many countries. We want to have as many women in the political arena as there are men, because they will then be able to articulate their issues and come up with solutions that will benefit them. You are right also that women have to support each other. I think I've heard that said time and time again, that sometimes we will go into the political spaces, the arenas, and we will not necessarily support one another. I think one of the things that Plan advocates in all our programming is that girls and women must lift each other up. It's about lifting each other up. If you have a space at the table, what are you doing to help the next young lady or the next girl to occupy that space? That is so important, that we do that, so that we start a chain reaction rather than having more tokenistic interventions where you have a certain number of women in a space, but there's nothing really actually happening. We have to lift one another up.
But Angela, let me bring you to the issue where women are always, either whether it's stereotyping or it's a fact, you determine that position, that they are their worst enemies when it comes to their own development and emancipation. And how do you view as Plan International that take to say and try and encourage women to support one another and lift one another, because they constitute for instance in Zimbabwe 54% of the population, which means they can easily take over anything and any position in whatever capacity, but it is them that are not supporting one another. And it starts with developing the girl child and making her stronger, and we have self-belief and have her encouraged to take up those positions as well of influence.
Well, I think that is also a gender stereotype, to be honest. I hear it all the time, that women get into these spaces and they start fighting amongst themselves and calling themselves names. I don't believe that is true. To be honest, I do believe that we need to lift one another up. Women need to get together, form movements, and try to lift each other up, provide each other the opportunity, empower one another. Absolutely, we need to do that. But I don't believe that we are incapable of doing that, because once we get into those spaces, we become, we cannot support one another. I don't think that is right at all. That is yet another stereotype that we need to fight against. I think for Plan International, one of the big things that we are doing actually in all our programs is building confidence and agency. Yes, there are 54% of the population is female in Zimbabwe, but how confident do they have the knowledge? First of all, have they been accorded the opportunity, and do they have the confidence to step into these places? Are they overburdened and overweighed by the social norms that operate within our societies, and the economic structures that mean that women have less access to jobs, to be able to open businesses, to money? you know. So that's the question that we need to be asking ourselves. It's not just as simplistic as saying, oh, you know, women have refused to support one another, you're the majority of the population. I think we need to look deeper into the issue to understand why is that the case. And that's what we are doing quite a lot of in plan. That's why we focus on those particular areas: education, sexual reproductive health, youth economic empowerment and protection, because we believe that will help us to raise up the girl.
All right, before we conclude, let me just read some of the messages that have come through. Just you internalize as you put your concluding remarks as well. This one says, all those issues, are they problems caused by men? Who all women advocacy organizations blame for nature? Got girls myself, I treat them equally and I discourage them to seek undeserved favor but fight for their capabilities. Also, this organization, they've created friction and direct confrontation with men because men now find themselves without a voice. In Bulawayo, thank you very much. This one says, women should be supported. Don't you think people are trying to make us jump 200 years from where we are? We are not white. We get married to African women. No man wants to stay with a woman that's a man. Hillary Clinton lost because she is female. All right, that's an example. This one says, good morning, great chat in studio today. However, I feel this always falls short because it does not tackle the root of the problem. The girl child is disempowered, can easily be solved by empowering and educating the man. If men can begin to see the girl child do good light, 99.9% of our problems will be gone. Correct. Let's empower the whole society. Selecting the girl child won't deliver as much because the man is still at the same place he was 30 years ago, and yet the girl child will work all his life alongside a male child. The complacency or ignorance of the male as father, as husband, and the community leader is where the girl child's problem starts. Let's lift the man. I will always say, an idiot of a father donates his daughters to prostitution. Thank you very much for getting in touch. This one says, why are you selecting, for instance, to have equal representation in politics or other similarly soft areas? Why not in hard labor related like mining, roadways, construction? How many women do fight to be in the bricklaying or the related fields? Thank you very much.
Because
all right, and quickly, as you conclude, I know we've run out of time.
Oh gosh, thank you. Those are so many. Now, how can you tell me we are finishing?
Driver.
I think in the journey towards equality, we have a status quo, and the status quo is that men and boys have been advantaged over women.
Had to read.
That is a fact, and the data is showing that. So in that journey, there will always be some nervousness or on the part of the group that has the advantage, the power, and you will see that in the comments, some of the comments that people make, because they feel, oh, you know, that means we are questioning the status. I'm going to lose some of my power.
Angela, I'm afraid we have to cut you short. I'm sure make more time.
Yeah,
there are more programs coming on the
yes,
station.
I would have liked to answer all the questions. We've run out of time.
We'll go back on our social media, but we've run out of time. But I must thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you very much.